Arch Linux, the most difficult of all operating systems to install. Today, I'm describing my journey into installing it, along with Hyprland, which is a window manager that you can customize. For reference, I am new to Linux and will be installing Arch solely by going through the install guide on the Arch Wiki. To start, you are met with just the terminal, so the first thing you gotta do is check for internet. I had to use this IWCTL program and followed a series of simple commands to connect to my network. Next, there was disk partitioning. I went with the first basic GPT setup of a boot partition of 4 gigabytes that gets formatted to FAT32, a swap partition of 5 gigabytes that gets formatted with the MKSwap, and a root partition for everything else that gets formatted to be XT4. After that, it's mounting the boot partitions with /mount, enabling a swap partition with swap on, and then the real magic happens with this pacstrap-k/mount base Linux/Linux firmware command that you run. Now this one adds the Linux kernel to the hard drive, so it's really the heart and soul of Linux. Chroot into the mount, you set the time zone, sync the clock, set my host name, I edited /etc/hosts, you set a root password, then I installed some must-haves like network manager, sudo, git, my NVIDIA graphics card driver, and Nano as a text editor. Now, the second to last step is install an EFI bootloader, which took me way too long to figure out that Clover, the first one on the list, did not support the GPT format that I partitioned the drives with. And I spent way too long trying to figure out how I was going to get another disk image onto the installation environment. As a suggestion to the editors of the Arch Wiki, maybe you should put the process for installing Grub as the default EFI bootloader, because I assumed that all the bootloaders were going to be disk images like Clover. But perhaps it was just me not wanting to do a ton more reading. Anyway, after that, I installed Grub to my drive and it generated a config file. And that was the moment where Arch was now bootable. I exited chroot, unmounted, rebooted, and there it was. Back to another terminal. Now, this is Arch Linux, but we didn't install a desktop environment. So all we are going to see is a terminal. But what I planned now is to install Hyprland, which is a desktop environment. I followed Solda's tech guide to install it. Huge shout out. Basically, you install Yay and then get Hyprland, Kitty, Alacrity, and along with his default config file from his GitHub. And there it was. Now, there is still some work to do, as some of the features in Hyprland, as you can see, don't work on my system. So stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to try to fix some of these issues.